Hey YouTube, Joeboy here. So, chapter 928 of One Piece is out, so if you haven't checked out that chapter yet, I suggest that you do so because I will be spoiling you. Now that you have, let's begin. So guys, this is one of the more tamer chapters that we've gotten in the recent weeks as far as Wano has been going, because it's been crazy every other week. This week, not really so much. I mean, we learned a lot of good things, we're going somewhere in the story, but this really was just a character chapter for us to get to better know Komurasaki, and the backstory that we got to see relating to this was just kind of so-so in comparison with other flashbacks that we've seen over the course of the story. And I really think that the biggest thing that contributes to this feeling for me is Komurasaki is not somebody that, based on this flashback, I would be rooting for, because he just kind of comes off as a B. And sort of to add on to this, or on top of this, I don't fully buy it anyway. I don't think that that is her full story. I think that she's going to have another reason that we don't yet know of for why she acts and does the thing that she does, and I'm much more interested in knowing that than knowing what I believe to be, a semi-lie. So I guess I'm waiting for her Nami moment. Nami was a thief. She came across as greedy, but in the end, the motive behind this, the reason why this was integral to her personality and character, was because there was a greater good. There was something that she was trying to do. She wanted to buy the freedom of her entire hometown or village. And I'm far more excited in learning what that is for Komurasaki. And recently we've explored the parallels of One Piece before the time skip and after the time skip, and Komurasaki in many ways is very similar to Boa Hancock. And so Boa Hancock was honestly portrayed in a very similar way when she was first introduced. She was a bee. She absolutely hated men. She was kicking puppies and looking down on her subordinates. But in the end, Oda eventually explained the whys to this. So perhaps that is another reason to expect some kind of turn of portrayal. And so if this is the case, I just think that what we got in this chapter, obviously it's important for setup, it's important for the purposes of creating a story, but in the end by itself it'd be much more shallow. But of course I'm a bit biased because I do think that Komurasaki will end up being more ally than enemy, but if this is just how she is, this is her personality, she's a bee, she has no redeeming qualities, then this would be most similar to perhaps the portrayal of the celestial dragons in the Sabaody arc. But the critical difference for me is that back in Sabaody, Oda didn't spend half a chapter showing us that the celestial dragons were a-holes. It was not necessary, whereas Komurasaki, the majority of this chapter was just to emphasize the point that we're not supposed to like her. And Oda did kind of take his time building to that point, which was, for me, relatively obvious from the very beginning of the flashback. So yeah, that's my thoughts on that. But as far as discussion goes, I think that this chapter offered us a lot. So yeah, I think it's probably best to just start off with Komurasaki herself. So as you guys know, I made a video just the other day talking about the real-life inspiration behind the character Komurasaki, and the real-life historical figure is of the same name. And so to me, this flashback was very fitting because the real-life Komurasaki and her story was also concerned about making money. But in that story, it was to support her family who had become destitute. And so in that video, I speculated that perhaps there's somebody in the story of One Piece, Komurasaki's family, father, mother, whoever, who she is concerned for is in trouble and is in need of money. So if you combine that speculation, what we have already discussed, with what we have been given in this chapter, perhaps Komurasaki's line during this chapter about how she had spent all of the old man's money is a lie. And her Nami or Boa Hancock moment will be the reveal that she's actually been taking all of this money, thieving from these people that are obsessed with her, in order to buy the freedom of perhaps her family. But as always, time will tell, and you should always keep in mind that even though Oda is inspired by a multitude of things, he changes details here or there as he sees fit. But let's be honest guys, this is not what you were thinking after the end of this chapter. For those of you who are reading between the lines, the most obvious thing to talk about Komurasaki is whether or not she is Momonosuke's sister. Now guys, I know that it was not explicitly stated in this chapter, but this should be the expectation going forward. This is clearly what Oda wants us to think. You start off with Komurasaki's flashback getting to better understand her character, and then right at the end of that, you pan over to Tama asking Momonosuke about his sister, in which he says that if his sister were alive today, we don't know what happened to her, but we assume that she's still alive somewhere, she would be 26 years old. I wonder why it was important to bring that up right now. Oh yeah, wasn't this very same chapter dedicated to a woman who appears to be somewhere around 26 years old with mysterious origins? So yeah guys, this is what Oda wants you to think, and if this is the case, then we should start discussing where the story's gonna go from here, because Momonosuke basically said, you know, the Shogun can't know about his sister, otherwise she would be in danger. So if Komurasaki is Momonosuke's sister, then obviously you have a point in the future of the story where that information becomes apparent to somebody, has the possibility of being revealed, and then she is in danger. Thus leading to part 4 of the Wano Kuni arc, Protect Komurasaki. But I specifically use the words that this is what Oda wants us to believe for a reason, because guys, you know, at this point in time, I'm a tinfoil hat wielder. You guys know that I'm sometimes got a little bit of that conspiracy theorist in me. And this feels much too obvious to me. One of the greater things about One Piece in regards to people who enjoy speculation is you have quite a lot of material to read and to better understand sort of Oda's style and how he goes about approaching writing a story and setting up different reveals. And so based on my opinion, based on my expertise, when it comes to something like this, it's not normally this obvious. Komurasaki being potentially Momonosuke's sister, in my opinion, in regards to the arc as a whole, should be a big reveal. It should be something that comes out of the blue a little bit. Not to say that Oda will not foreshadow it, but the foreshadowing will be typically low-key, very easy for the average reader to miss. And even after the observation, still mostly questionable. And unless I am some kind of genius, you know, that next tier over 200 IQ, I really don't see that here. It just seems just straight up, just this is what you should think. Very similar to an actual reveal when it comes to the confidence level. Like for comparison's sakes, compare it to, you know, the reveal that Garp is Luffy's grandpa and he's a vice admiral and a big name in the Marines, or Monkey D. Dragon is Luffy's father, the most wanted man in the world, leader of the Revolutionary Army. Or even Gold D. Roger is Ace's father. So yeah, with all that said, guys, I think that this is a red herring. I think that Oda wants us to distract us to who Momonosuke's sister actually is, so that it is surprising when it's revealed. Because everybody assumes it has to be Komurasaki. It would essentially persuade a lot of people to not think about the question any longer. But yeah, if anybody else wants to wield that tinfoil hat with me, feel free. Because I have a feeling that this perspective is not going to be very popular in the upcoming months. But you know, thinking emoji, glass half full JB, if I convince everybody that Komurasaki is not Momonosuke's sister, and then it's revealed that she is, that would be surprising. Win-win confirmed. Also, as a side note, guys, Oda's silhouettes strike again. As you guys know, we got to see Hayuri in the flashback, and I assumed that she was maybe 3 or 4 years old, but Momonosuke says that his sister, if she were to be alive today, would be 26. So in that flashback, she's actually 6 years old. Damn it, Oda. Also, as another side note, guys, Komurasaki's design in this chapter was a 10 out of 10. She is smoking. Kawaii. Very beautiful art. And be sure to never let me forget to never say kawaii using that voice in any context ever again. Well, in Wano they say that JB's otaku level grew 3 sizes this day. But yeah, there's some other things that we want to discuss in this chapter, so no time for rambling. First off, we got to see Raizo in this chapter, and we already knew that he was planning on, or he was part of the plan of breaking Luffy out of prison, and we can see him just show up and talk casually to Luffy. He also can appear and disappear at will. So I guess the first thing is that I've seen people mention that they're a little bit disappointed because they really enjoyed the initial vibes of this mini prison arc within Wano, how it was dirty and grimy, and it just added a different kind of dimension to it. But since then, it has been mostly lighthearted, and some people are a little bit disappointed in that. It seems like to many people that this is going to be mostly uneventful, that Luffy's going to meet some people and then escape, without much issue. Little to no real stakes. But I happen to disagree, and this is my reason why. It seems like Raizo's plan in order to break Luffy out is to obtain the keys to his cuffs. So the plan really is to break Luffy out and nobody else. But it seems pretty telegraphed to me that Luffy is not escaping by himself. He is escaping with every other prisoner in the prison. No Grandpa Hyo left behind. So what Oda needs to build right now is more reason for Luffy to be focused on saving the other prisoners, because they are being mistreated in some way. More so than we have seen so far. Otherwise, I think that Luffy is perfectly capable of leaving everyone behind. So I'm just going to throw something out there. It doesn't have to be this. It could be really anything. But I wouldn't be surprised to see, we already know that there's sort of connection between the prison and Queen, because it seems as though that Queen was playing with Kid's arm, as well as when Luffy was first thrown into prison, Kid seemed to be injured, as though somebody actually was capable of hurting him and beating him. It clearly was not any of the headliners. So an appearance to the prison for Queen, and for her to hurt people, would be something that I could see happening. That would also give Luffy the chance to meet Queen. I'm saying Queen, it could be King as well. And for the story to really build up and build our anticipation for the matchup. In a lot of different arcs, Luffy ends up seeing what the villains are doing, and it makes him hate them. And it also makes us hate them. And it makes their interaction so much more satisfying. Especially when they get their faces crushed in. But let's go back to Raizo for a moment. A lot of people probably asking at this moment, like, what is his power exactly? How is he able to appear and disappear? Is this like real ninja power? Is this ninjutsu? What is his devil fruit? We talked a long time ago about Raizo's devil fruit and what I think it is, and I think that it still fits so far today, and that's that Raizo's fruit, not ninja powers, it's a devil fruit, is the trap door fruit. And the way that Oda has themed the samurai's abilities is that of kabuki. Kabuki is like traditional Japanese theaters, and there's certain things that are prevalent within the genre, including the use of trap doors. Kanjuro's design is clearly based off of that. The use of art and painting is relevant, and then Kinemon has the ability to change people's clothing, which again is appropriate for theater. So the idea is that Raizo is incredibly fast, and he can create trapdoors beneath his feet or off to the side, however, to quickly disappear, and then reappear somewhere else. So all things considered, very similar to Blue Nose fruit. But anyway, let's talk about Grandpa Hyo for just a brief moment. This chapter kind of confirmed what I was thinking after the end of the last chapter. This character, for whatever reason, is important. And I'm not really sure why, because I don't think that he himself is going to do anything. I'm not sure if he possesses any skills that would be useful. He's an old man. So either he's a very important person himself, like as an example, I don't think that this is the case, but this is sort of the general line of thinking, as he's Momonosuke's grandpa, Odin's father, the previous, king of Wano. That's what I mean when I say a person is important, not for what they do, but for who they are, and or who or what he knows is important. So what I mean by this is for what he knows, like as an example, he knows the secret entrance into the Shogun's palace. Or for who he knows, he's actually Komurasaki's father or grandfather. Again, that's just another example, but connections between characters are often important. Hyo could be the lovable middleman. Other than this, Caribou finally made a proper introduction into the Wano Kuni arc, and I really hope that this is the final arc in which he is in the story and he dies. We also get to see further clarification of what has happened to Captain Kidd. The theory or the rumor was that he had lost his arm when he went into Big Mom's territory, but he says that is not the case. He actually lost his arm fighting against the red-haired pirates, which actually makes some sense. Remember, Kidd was initially planning on taking out red-haired Shanks. So I'm assuming what happened was that Kidd invaded Shanks' territory and it did not end well. What I took away from this is that Shanks' crew is surprisingly brutal. For me personally, it's pretty easy to forget that when they were first introduced, they shot a dude. Since then, we've only really seen them partying and being pacifists. But if you guys didn't catch on, the whole point of this reveal really was to further make Kidd and Luffy equals. Because if you were to compare their feats based on what we previously thought, Kidd went into Big Mom's territory and lost an arm fighting a Sweet Commander. They're equals, yeah, but Luffy went into Big Mom's territory, defeated 2 Sweet Commanders with his arm intact. And so for us Kid apologists within the community, huge shout out to Brago DAs, you have to sort of argue that, like why they're still equals despite that. And the argument was, well, Kid went into Big Mom's territory several years before Luffy, so Kid was less ready. But now it appears that Kid has also achieved the very same feat. And it also makes you question what is truth or not, because from Whole Cake Island, Brule left us with the impression that the Big Mom Pirates beat Kid, made him look bad, left Whole Cake Island with his tail between his legs, didn't even pose any threat to any sweet commanders, let alone Big Mom. But in this chapter, Kid is telling us that he injured a sweet commander in order to, quote, get what he wants. As a side note, guys, I feel like I've been transported back to 2016 where I'm arguing whether or not the Big Mom Pirates are liars or not. That being said, we're comparing what Brule has said to what Kid has said, and between the two, I would believe that Kid would be the more honest of the two. But let's not ignore the fact that what Kid suggested is that he came to Whole Cake Island not to defeat Big Mom or not to fight them, but to obtain something or other, which seems really mysterious and interesting. Was Kid looking for the poneglyphs there? And did he find them? That's the only thing that I know of that would be worth stealing. And if he did succeed, I know that this is a huge contentious point within the community, but if he did succeed, I do think that that reflects negatively on the Big Mom Pirates. But if it is the poneglyphs that he was after, I would take a guess that he didn't succeed, but it's still important regardless because the Strats did, and that would give a reason for Kid to attempt to attack the Strats in order to obtain that information. And honestly casts that relationship in a completely different light as rivals, not only in terms of fighting capabilities and wanting to become the Pirate King, but also the chase for the poneglyphs. We also know that Kaido himself owns a road poneglyph and may have others as well. So if Kaido is defeated in this arc, then at some point in time all of these poneglyphs will be available to steal. And maybe both the Strats and the Kid Pirates will want to, aside from anybody else. Or maybe similar to Whole Cake Island where Pedro suggested that the Strats steal the road poneglyph, Pedro and Brook sort of team up in order to accomplish that task. Maybe that becomes a plan that both the Kid Pirates and the Strats work together in order to achieve. Just as a reminder, guys, Killer is incredibly intelligent and knowledgeable. If the Kid Pirates had a plan to steal Big Mom's road poneglyph, then I think that would have been a suggestion from Killer. We don't know where Killer is currently, but maybe that is what he is trying to do or has done. Or maybe when Kid and Luffy end up breaking out of prison, that's something that Killer suggests. Either way, guys, a lot of possibility, but I do think that is really interesting and very low-key from this chapter. But yeah, guys, that is pretty much my thoughts about this chapter. As always, I'm curious if you noticed something that I may have missed. Just share your thoughts. Like the video if you liked the video, dislike the video if you disliked the video. Make sure to subscribe if you want to be notified for my future content. And as always, guys, have a wonderful day.